There's a really famous story in Luke's Gospel, and only found in Luke's Gospel, where those nearby are presented with a choice. There's an injured man on the roadside, and two cross over, and one doesn't. Here in the crucifixion, we're presented with the same kind of choice. We stand at a crossroads, at the edge of the city. Do we also take the Via Dolorosa, or do we turn off and scarper? The disciples abandon him and flee. Others remain and follow. The women faithfully and bravely stand with their Lord. And a few others come along who are drawn by the ghastly spectacle of a man being led out to be executed. We've chosen not to turn away, but to be here on this most stark day in order to confront and to be confronted by the brutal events of ultimate importance that take us to the very core of life and death. What do you see as you watch Jesus on the cross? What feelings does it bring up in you? I think over the years, I've become more and more afraid of what I see as I try and watch Jesus on the cross. I watch him die. I watch them cast lots to divide his clothing. I watch the leaders scoff at him, the soldiers mock him, and one of the criminals deride him. Each has a choice before they act or speak. That's not, however, what most frightens me. What really frightens me is how Jesus responds to the injustice and the violence. Jesus forgives them. He doesn't scoff, mock, or deride. He doesn't judge or condemn them. He doesn't retaliate or seek revenge. He doesn't call them names. He doesn't shout out at them or curse them. He doesn't express anger. He neither speaks nor acts with violence. He chooses to suffer violence and injustice rather than be their cause. Crucifixion holds before us a choice, a crossroads, in the image of a non-violent Jesus. That's what frightens me. Maybe it frightens you too. Maybe you and I should be afraid. Not of Jesus, but actually of the violence within ourselves, if we're brave enough to admit it. Because if you and I claim to be Christians and to follow the way of Jesus, then we are also called to be like him, to become non-violent in our thoughts and words and actions. If non-violence is the way of Jesus, then what does that mean for us? For the war in Ukraine, Gaza and Israel? The way we drive, or the words and tone we use on social media. When I speak of violence, I'm not only talking about wars and the different kinds of criminal and physical violence. I'm talking about all the ways that we hurt ourselves and others, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Talking about the ways we diminish or negate the human dignity of ourselves and others by what we think and say and do. These are the crossroads we come to very regularly in our lives. I don't think non-violence is something that we achieve so much as it's a path we choose to follow. Addressing violence in our lives and our world is a spiritual journey. It's something we grow into. It's not only about the violence we do to others, but actually also the violence we do to ourselves. And maybe that's where non-violence must begin. Maybe the reason Jesus could be non-violent towards others is because he was first non-violent towards himself. Maybe the first step to addressing violence in our world today is to deal with the violence we inflict on ourselves. So let me ask some questions for us to ponder. What violence are you inflicting on yourself today? Do you ever put yourself down, call yourself names, berate or ridicule yourself? Whatever things, regrets, guilt, missed opportunities with which you still beat yourself up? Are you denying yourself forgiveness? How do you feel about yourself, your life, body and soul? In what ways are you hurting yourself physically, emotionally, or spiritually? Can we dare to give ourselves a break and show ourselves some compassion? What if we truly believe that we are a beloved of God, a child with whom God is well pleased? What if we began listening to a voice of self-love rather than the self-critical voice? What would it be like to live with unconditional friendliness toward yourself? How might we start to make peace with ourselves? Imagine if we let unconditional friendliness towards ourselves and peacemaking with ourselves be starting points for our relationships with others. Or as Jesus puts it, loving our neighbours as ourselves. We might begin to recognize her or him to be sacred, to be as sacred as ourselves, and his or her hopes near us need to be valid and as important as our own. We might feel less the need to prove or defend or justify ourselves. We might take our fear or anger down a notch or two. If that were to happen, how might it change what we think, the words we choose, and the things we do? Preachers always preach to themselves. I don't think I've ever said while driving, "That child of God has just cut me up." I have, however, referred to him or her as that bleeping bleep who cut me up or undertook me. What if we started small and began to replace that everyday, ordinary acts of violence with something kinder? Non-violent driving, non-violent posting on social media, peace-filled ways of talking about others, kinder self-talk and thought. Well, they might be good ways to begin. And what we have, as we stand at the crossroads between the city and the rubbish dump, is a choice and an example. Jesus offers us choice, that in his example we might not perpetuate the wrangling for power, the selfishness and insecurity that make us fight or hurt, but rather seek a purer and better way. Jesus himself has been at the crossroads and chosen his path. He didn't even have to come to Jerusalem, but he came. He came knowing that the climax of his mission as Saviour was ahead of him. And that was the path and the course he took.